Welcome to Highside, Lowside. I am joined today by Spenser Robert, who is going to be my fill-in co-host while Zachary is recovering from a bit of a motorcycle tumble. And today we are going to be sitting down with none other than Ryan from FortNine to talk about his new documentary, his round-the-world trip with his co-stars, Connor and Edwin. And we're going to get all the behind-the-scenes dirt about what the experience was really like. We're also going to dive into Sophie's choice, or in this case, Spenser's choice. He's going to buy one of two motorcycles. We get to help him pick. And is buying a sport bike the correct way to slow down when you want to ride your motorcycle? I don't know, but we'll get into all of that and more. But first, a word from our sponsor.
Before we dive into the show, special thanks to Motul for its longtime sponsorship of Highside Lowside. You know, you can lubricate your engine or clean your machine with lots of different products, I'll be honest, but there's only one brand that gives you that warm, fuzzy feeling of supporting your favorite motorcycle podcast. That's right. A little bit of every dollar you spend on Motul products at RevZilla.com goes into producing this show. So to learn more about Motul's catalog of products, go to RevZilla.com/Motul. That's RevZilla.com/MOTUL.
And while you're over there on RevZilla.com, make sure you check out the Airbag Save page. RevZilla is dedicated to making sure that you are informed about all the newest safety technology coming down the pike. And the newest, most protective safety technology that we've seen in recent years is the evolution of airbag technology. So to learn about the entire line of airbag products and which one might be right for you and your ride, check out RevZilla.com/airbags. Now, on with the show. Everyone, welcome to Highside, Lowside, and welcome to Spenser, who is our special guest today. Hello, my friend.
Welcome to me.
This episode is not about you sadistic, self-centered. No, I'm kidding.
You lured me in under that, as usual. You just know how much I love talking about myself.
I know, and we'll talk about you a little bit. But we are here today, joined by another special guest, Ryan from FortNine. He's going to be talking about his most latest release, which is a pretty big departure from really the content that we've seen FortNine put out to date.
Yeah. Certainly, if you're listening to this podcast, you are probably aware and familiar of FortNine and all of the great content they make. But they have really set a new bar, and that is made a documentary about a record-breaking trip around the entire world via motorcycle. So apparently they've done it in 16 days, give or take. And not only have they broken that record of just doing it, but they made an entire feature-length movie, which is super impressive. It's got Ryan, it's got his co-worker, co-host Connor, as well as their cameraman who actually rode on the bike with them, Edwin. And it's just an insane journey. If you haven't seen the trailer or the video, take a minute, go watch the trailer. And if you've already seen the video, then hopefully we'll be able to ask some behind the scenes of how they actually pulled off such a daunting feat.
And I will fluff your feathers here, Spenser, for a little bit. With Zack on the mend during the time of this recording, we really could think of no one better than yourself. I mean, for those of you that don't remember Spenser from previous episodes, he is also our very own producer extraordinaire, the man behind most of the CTXP, pretty much all the CTXP shenanigans that you see on RevZilla's YouTube channel, as well as the producer for the shop manual and for Daily Riders. So Spenser, you are no slouch when it comes to being able to have an interesting conversation about the inner workings of, what probably went into filming this. And also, wait, I'm sorry. Before we jump right in, there's a big life change in your future. And by the time this episode goes out, the life change will have already happened. But for our audience, Spenser, what are we really excited about in the next week or so for you?
Well, it's either one of the motorcycles that I'm going to purchase that you'll help me out with, hopefully, or you could perhaps be referring to the wedding, my wedding, a week from now, roughly. So I'm guessing it's the latter.
Married, everybody. Yeah, he finally found somebody to put up with him until death does them part.
It took a while, but we got there.
Well, congratulations, man.
Thank you very much. We're very excited. And it does segue well into this bike discussion because as part of the wedding ceremony, or actually rather the reception, there is an idea that we're going to go take some pictures and then we're going to come back to the main reception area and ride in on a motorcycle. And of course, I have motorcycles available, but it's a good excuse to look for a quirky, interesting motorcycle that we can, look back on in 60 years and be like, oh yeah, that was that funny bike that we had. So Spurgeon, you should have a couple links of the two bikes I am deliberating on. And I do feel confident in saying these two machines have never been cross-shopped, but through some sheer coincidence, as disparate as they are, we are looking at very similar prices for very different machines.
All right, so let's go with option number one, Spenser. What is option number one for you and your loving fiance, wife-to-be to ride in on?
So option number one, and I don't know which link you clicked on exactly, but the one option is a 2020 Harley Davidson Livewire. And option number two is a 2018 Ural CT, which is basically the one-wheel drive Ural sidecar. So do you get a sporty, naked, probably soon to be non-existent electric motorcycle from Harley and now Livewire, or do you get a also probably soon to be defunct sidecar from a Ukrainian / now made in Kazakhstan, I think, option. I don't know. The interesting thing is that the Harley, I think when it came out was like $20,000 and the Ural was like, $15,000 or $16,000. And they've now funneled into my Facebook marketplace algorithm to leave me with this impossible decision of which one, Spurgeon, would you rather roll into your wedding reception on, a Harley Davidson Livewire or a Ural sidecar? So
a couple things here. One, according to these posts, the asking price for the Ural sidecar is $8,000. The asking price for the Harley Davidson Livewire, $7,500. Lance and I were just talking about this a couple of weeks ago because for some reason, you say the potentially soon to be defunct Livewire, their stock price over the last 6 months is up 207%. And Lance and I were trying to figure out why. There's something fishy going on here where it's like, why? Like nobody's buying Livewires, so why is their stock price through the roof? That's just a fun little Well,
you're not helping my negotiation. I'm trying to tell this guy, I'm like, listen, it's basically a paperweight. You don't want it. You're not going to be able to get it serviced. Let me help you and just why don't you give it away?
I would say that, the problem is I know the date of your wedding, and I think the Harley board meeting should actually happen 3 or 4 days before. So you might know a little bit more definitively what's happening with Livewire, and you can really use that to your advantage. I will say this out loud for the audience. Spenser is probably one of the most shrewd negotiators I've ever seen. So if they're asking $7,500, he can probably get it for $3,000 out the door, said and done. Okay. So for rolling into your wedding, I just feel like the no-brainer here is the Ural, right? You can have so much fun with that.
Now here's the problem. The Ural, I have spoken to numerous Ural mechanics and dealers. Ural parts, and this is perhaps breaking news for the audience, Ural parts are basically non-existent. Nobody can get Ural parts anymore because of some shenanigans related to the, I believe they were in Ukraine.
And then they moved out of Ukraine.
They moved to Kazakhstan, and now there's an ownership change. So every dealer I've spoken to says, yep, can't get parts for it. We've been waiting over a year to get parts, and this one does need a couple parts.
Come on, I would say the beauty of a Ural is that it never breaks down, right? It's one of the most dependable motorcycles you can get.
Yeah. I don't think any of the dealers I spoke to would agree with that based on the backlog of Ural service that they have and no parts available. So that's the problem is, that's the sort of potentially defunct issue either way. But the Ural, perhaps more pressingly, the little things I would want to fix may not be a way to fix it unless I maybe buy a second Ural and then combine them into one super Ural.
So the most of my Ural experience was Abby, who has been on the podcast before of Bike Curious and iconic motorbike fame. He and I took a Ural for LA B2V once, and we filmed that for a video for RevZilla. And I would say even taking out the off-road abuse that we threw at that Ural, it broke a lot in the week that we had it. And that probably doesn't speak volumes to your option. I guess my gut reaction is the Ural is my no-brainer for what you're trying to do here. But if you're worried about parts, there's a lot of torque to be had with a live wire. And from a distance standpoint, you're not going to have range anxiety, riding from the photo shoot to the ceremony. But I would say this is probably the perfect segue to say, Ryan, you're here, you're with us, you've listened to the conundrum that Spenser is in at the moment. Which motorcycle are you picking for Spenser and his upcoming nuptials?
Congratulations on your upcoming nuptials. This is very exciting. For me, I would go with the Livewire. I like the story of this being, Harley Davidson's flagship entry into the electric segments. They want to win over a big crowd of crusty old dudes who are biased against electric bikes. So they pour everything into this machine and price it at, I don't know what you said, 20 something $1,000. They were like 35 up in Canada. So to see this 2020 model, it looks pretty fresh, sitting at $7,500, and knowing that the master negotiator could get it down to 5 and change, to me, that's a really good buy. The Ural, a couple of years older, the reliability, like Spurgeon brought up, the absence of parts, you might be looking at really large paperweight, a big piece of garage candy there. Not to bash Ural too much, but man, I don't have a lot of trust in him. I rode one for maybe like 6 weeks or something like that. And it was some of the most fun I had, and I was never not stressed that it was about to give up the ghost. And that thing was brand new. So
yeah, I think 6 weeks is longer than most people make it with their Urals, as far as I can tell. So you probably have above average Ural riding experience.
Yeah, it was right at the scheduled catastrophic engine failure.
But hang on, let me ask a question. Was it that the Ural was a lot of fun, or was it just like a motorcycle with a sidecar is a lot of fun?
It was that a motorcycle with a sidecar is a lot of fun. Yes. You can put a kid in it. People at the gas station want to talk about it. Anything with a sidecar is a riot. The fact that it's a Ural doesn't make a huge difference. We built one recently out of a Kawasaki Vulcan, and it was awesome. It was powerful, and it ran beautifully, and it shifted beautifully. Have you ever shifted gears on a Ural?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
It's like a track. It's like
a full body experience.
Yeah.
So now Ryan, talk to me about this Kawasaki sidecar. What's your bottom dollar? All right, delivered to Arizona. What are we talking here? Because I'm interested. I'm open to suggestions sidecar wise here.
Yeah, I wish I could sell it to you. Unfortunately, it's not mine to sell. We decided to be a fun idea to pick up Exhibit's mantle and do some pimping of bikes. So we found a guy who had a busted up Kawasaki Vulcan, and he didn't care much about it. This bike's not worth much to me. I've crashed it 4 times, like take it and do whatever, which was great because we wanted to do something stupid. So we stuck a Ural sidecar on it, actually, from a 1960s Ural, and painted the whole thing lavender. It's pretty tasty. It came out looking like an ice cream cone, and it's awesome. And unfortunately not mine to sell. But
not yet.
I can get you his contact information, see if you can make a deal. He might hate what we did and be eager to get rid of the thing. Who knows? So, yeah.
Ryan, you mentioned sticking kids in a sidecar, and I think since our last chat on the podcast, you now have two little girls at home. Is that correct?
Yeah, I've got 2 little girls, and we've got another one on the way in January. So,
dude, congratulations!
Yeah. Thanks very much. Yeah, we're loving it. Kids are a lot of fun. So,
well, I want to. It's funny, like it's one of the questions that I have for you in regards to this documentary that you've created, and like maybe some of the balance between fatherhood and the work that we sometimes do. But I want to save that a little bit later in the conversation and kind of like just start things off with this was a big project for you guys, right? Like, and it seems to me, for our audience to get an understanding here, the rough cut that we watched, by the time this episode releases, you will have had published the actual video, right? But you were gracious enough to let us see, a rough cut of this, round the world trip that you took. I guess from a starting point, with the version that we're seeing, how finalized is this form of the video? And then we'll start kind of talking about the process a little bit.
Yeah. Thank you for watching it. You say I graciously shared a rough cut. The reality is that I foisted upon you a half-baked cake and forced both of you poor guys to eat it, primarily because I wanted to hear what you thought and what was boring and what worked and what didn't, because we still have the opportunity to make changes with this thing. And you guys make some of the best moto content around, so you're good people to ask, especially Spenser, who shoots and edits a bunch of stuff. So thank you guys for suffering through it. It's picture-wise, I think, really close to what will be released. I don't think the length will change much. We might substitute a few scenes here and there, but broadly speaking, this is near picture lock. Having said that, there's a lot that will change in the way that the movie feels. So much of the music is just placeholders. Much of the ADR work is not done. So because we were trying to break a speed record and shoot at the same time, we didn't always have the luxury of like rigging good mics or capturing good audio, especially with people that we were interacting with that weren't part of this production. So we have a bit of ADR work, getting nice sounding audio in a bunch of the scenes.
And for those who might not know, ADR is basically a process where you re-record audio that, Ryan, as you suggested, you're running around you happen to talk to someone, whether it's a border patrol agent or someone in a bar, and you don't have a microphone nearby. And so you can kind of get like a vague sense of what was said, enough so that you can kind of re-record those lines. But am I describing that correctly, would you say, Ryan, for
people
who don't know?
What Spurgeon and Spenser watched was like, and we'll do hopefully a better job of a bit of that for the final viewer.
So when you re-record that audio, do you just to make it as authentic as possible? I assume you won't sleep for like a week straight, and then you'll record all your lines to really capture that feeling.
Funnily enough, we actually did that. So. Again, trying to break a speed record and make a movie, we had a lot of the in the trenches footage from the original 16-day, 23-hour trip. And that drives the narrative arc of the movie. But a lot of the like nice routing footage, drone shots, some of the onboard like POV stuff, we had to go back and take in a round of pickups. So we were super tired again in May because we went back around most of the world and spent like a couple weeks riding and shooting crazy hours. And we used that to record a bunch of this ADR work, because your voice does different things when it's super tired and when you've been like screaming into a comm for 30 or 40 hours. It just sounds really different, and it's hard to replicate that if I just wake up in silk bed sheets and go into the.
You sit in a nice cozy office and you try to recapture that absolute desperation and exhaustion. It is amazing how even when you try your hardest, there's something intangible there that you really can't recreate unless you do it for real twice. It sounds like you had the pleasure of that type of experience. Yeah,
exactly. We set the records last September. And then in, was it January? No, May. We went back to Istanbul, to Mumbai, to Malaysia, to Australia, to shoot a bunch more of the more scenic and actiony riding footage. And then in September, again, we went back to Alaska because you might have noticed in some of the shots, like all the larches were firing off golden in the Alaska footage, which is really beautiful. And that's something that only happens for a couple weeks in September. So when we were coming back, setting the record, we were like, wow, this looks amazing. Aren't we so lucky? And we were lucky, but it turned out we were also a little bit unlucky because it meant we had to wait a whole year to go back and get decent ACAM stuff from sticks and drone stuff and that kind of thing.
That's really interesting because Spenser, and again, for those in the audience, Spenser is the mastermind behind a lot of what we do here with CTXP, amongst other productions, Spenser. So forgive me if I didn't give you a grandiose introduction of why you are here today. But Spenser will often come to me after a shoot and be like, man, if only I could go back and redo this again. I'm like, no, man, there's no budget for that. Like, you got what you got. So it sounds like like you were afforded that opportunity. So Spenser, I don't want you getting any ideas.
Spenser, you want a job, buddy? I mean, hey, we could talk.
To be clear, the joke we always make with a CTXP episode is the perfect way to make an episode would be to film it in its entirety, edit it in its entirety, and then go refilm the entire thing and only shoot the exact scenes that you need, the exact pieces of dialogue, the exact B-roll shots. Because Ryan, I imagine with the trip you guys did, there's probably quite a bit on the cutting room floor. There's a lot that didn't make it, even in a hour plus documentary.
Heaps, yeah. We had to reinvent our video storage system when we got back from the trip, because we had so many terabytes of footage, we didn't actually have a place to put it all. So the first thing we did was like overhaul all of our hardware in the office just so we had a place to park this project. And even then, I think Edwin spent 2 or 3 months cutting, and the first version of the movie we watched together was still like 12 hours long. So we sat down for a whole day and watched like 12 hours of footage, and that was the trimmed down version. So there's lots on the cutting room floor. I mean, there's whole countries that aren't even visually represented in the film, because I wanted to make something that was like one package. I get annoyed when I watch series because they have to invent these fake little plot arcs for each episode to keep you coming back to the next one. And you're contriving these little story arcs to keep someone coming back across 8 episodes, which always felt a bit phony. So I wanted to present the trip as like one cohesive thing, because the way it felt to us doing it was one cohesive ride around the world. So that meant making a movie that was like an hour and a half long. And that meant that we had to like jettison a bunch of good material. But
and for the audience that, may not have watched it yet, and the video is out on FortNine's YouTube channel. So it was 3 characters in the film, right? It's yourself, it's Connor, and it's Edwin. Edwin is riding pillion. He's riding as your passenger for the trip. I guess, getting into like a little bit of the concepting, where did the concept start with this? Did you know that you were going to do it just the 3 of you? Like, it is a bit of a departure from, maybe a little bit more of the specific content that you've historically created. Like, walk us through where the little kernel started with this whole project.
Yeah, I always wanted to do a big motorcycle trip while I could call it work, because we're lucky little shits who get to go on big trips and get paid for it. And so I was over in the UK at the ABR festival, and this guy, Nick Sanders, was up on stage talking about how he set the round the world. They call it the overland circumnavigation record. So the fastest time around the world by like car, boat, motorcycle. It's always been done by motorcycles because they get through traffic easier than everything else. So he was talking about how he had set this record like 25 years ago, and it was 19 days and 4 hours. And so that immediately to me like set off the bells, because here was a big around the world trip that I could do and still be able to say to my wife, like, hey, I'm only going to be gone for 2 weeks, because when you're a father of 2 or soon to be 3, going away for months at a time is not a cool thing to do.
Did you tell her at that point you were going to do the trip twice, or did you just tell her you were going to go once?
So at the time I was only planning to do it once. At its origin, it was just going to be me and some GoPros. And I was like, I'm going to ride around the world to try to break the record, and maybe we'll like make some kind of weird cut to put up on the YouTube channel. It was supposed to be like a very minimal thing that I just wanted to do to see if I could do it. And then I made the mistake of talking about it around my buddies who are cool and adventurous dudes. I say mistake turned out to be a good thing. But of course, Connor immediately said like, I'm coming. Like, I got to be a part of that. And Edwin was like, yeah, me too. I want to go. So, okay, it grew to be a bigger thing. And if you're going to send 3 people, okay, we need a bigger product at the end of this to make it work on the budget sheet. So then we started talking about making a movie. And the only way to film a speed record real time is to have Edwin sitting on the back of my bike, because you have no hope of ever hooking up with a film car. They'll get stuck, you'll lose each other, and they'll just never catch you again, because the only way to set the record is to be like constantly in motion. Like most of our ride days were like 24 or 30 or 40 hours. And the only way for it to work is for everyone to be on the same train. So fortunately, Edwin is like a hardcore like Himalayan climber dude, and he was happy to just sit on the back of my bike. That was his first ever motorcycle trip. He'd never been on one. And he just hung out back there for 30, 40 hour ride days and was tough as nails. His job was definitely the hardest, because when we would finally get to a place where Connor and I could like get off the bike and just do something else for 5 minutes, those were the moments where everyone had to pop open that top box and pull out the camera and start filming. So his real works kind of started when Connor and I were resting. So it was, I think, extremely difficult for him. But anyway, that's a a brief synopsis of how the project came to be.
Yeah, I mean, and not to mention for Edwin, I imagine even just offloading footage throughout the course of the trip. I mean, there are so many nuances of big trips like this from a production standpoint that are such an impediment to what a speed run would be. You know, whether it's people are used to seeing a road trip video and you have maybe some point of view, and then you see two bikes go by a camera that's on the side of the road. Well, if you're doing that in real time, that means that a cameraman had to be on the side of the road. And, if he was with you guys, then you guys had to go past him and then flip around and come pick him up. And so I imagine you were trying to avoid that as much as possible. But, even in avoiding that, he's filming off the back of the bike and you guys are shooting with, I imagine, all these cameras as much as possible because you never know what's going to happen. And you guys captured so many, I can't believe you got that on camera moments. And then you stop somewhere and cards are full, right? So is he also offloading everything in those sort of, very rare moments where you're not making forward progress?
Yeah, he is. That's another reason where it's brutal for him. So most of our sleeps were somewhere on the order of like 1 to 3 hours. And so if Connor and I got like 2.5 or 2:45 of sleep, Edwin probably got like 1 because he would actually have to be dumping some footage, at least starting the process before he could crash a little bit and then keep going. And like you say, there's a different priority for a cameraman, right? He always wants to get off and take a passing shot or, hook up cameras or hook up microphones. He's thinking about the whole thing differently. Which was very valuable to have in the end. In the moment, it was like butting heads because Con and to a lesser extent me, like we were really just there because we wanted to set the record. We wanted to win this race, and that's what we were tunnel focused on. Edwin was entirely the opposite. He couldn't have given 2 shits about the record. He just wanted to make a cool movie. So the whole way around, he's like, let's stop. I want to take a shot. Let's do this. Let's go back and shoot that. Kind of like, because we're trying to make the best time that we could. But having those multiple chefs in the kitchen was pretty critical because the footage that we got out of it at the end, I think was very good.
I was impressed with the amount of footage you got. You talk about like the being constantly in motion and trying to break a record. Like there were drone shots and, drive-bys. And like, I was actually impressed with it, how much it appeared that you were stopping to get those shots. Yeah.
I mean, some of that came from the pickup trips, in which case we weren't racing.
Okay.
But I would say like probably 90% or 95% of the dialogue and like the narrative force is all like real from the trip. That was really important to me. I didn't want to have to like fake anything. So the whole narrative force of the movie is all real. Sometimes, the visuals are stuff that we took a few months later when we had a bit more time.
So when Edwin's laying on the floor outside the motel room talking about how you guys are sleeping and he's like, they get to sleep, but I'm here offloading footage. That was real. That was
for sure. Yeah, that's all real. Basically, anytime we're talking, it's real. And all the comm stuff is real. And we wanted it to be as authentic as possible because we really just wanted a movie that felt like what the experience felt like. Because it was a weird one, and we were trying something that was pretty new. So the times that the record's been set in the past, so Kevin and Julia Sanders, Nick Sanders did it first on a ride sponsored by Triumph. He did like 31 days or something like this. And then Kevin and Julia Sanders broke it. They did 19 days, 8 hours. But 19 days, 8 hours was actually like 42 days because they would ride across a continent and then ship their bike. And so they would have this like week where they were able to sleep and rest and recuperate and then like sprint across the next stage, which is fine. That's the sort of the way it would have to be done if you're taking one motorcycle. But then the next time Nick Sanders broke it in 19 days, 4 hours, he shot a TV show for Men and Motors. So then the 19 days, 4 hours was actually like 90 days because they were moving a TV crew around. And so there were these little sprints with big stretches of sleeping in between. And it started this fight where Kevin and Julia kind of called out Nick and said, your record's bullshit. We don't recognize it. He's like, nah, yours was kind of bullshit. I did the harder route. And they were kind of spatting over it. And it left the record in this weird, uncertain zone where no one tried it for almost 3 decades because no one knew whose time they had to break, how much sleep is too much. It brought a lot of uncertainty to it. So we wanted to do it in like the simplest way possible to see if we could like start the clock when we left moving east and not stop the clock until we came back around from the west. So all the flights and all the borders and all the sleeps, you just count everything because that's the simplest way to set a time.
Yeah, it's an unbelievable undertaking to include the transit between the actual riding. And that was something I kept thinking about when I was watching it, is I don't know how much of a stress point this was for you guys, if it actually came up at all. Maybe it did, maybe it didn't. But basically, if one of your flights was delayed, because you ended up beating that, the record, however you want to couch it, by a few hours, a few days rather.
Yeah.
Because it was originally 19 days and you guys did 16 days. Is that right?
19.4 and we did 16.23. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, a flight often can be delayed. Like, it's an evening flight, you're delayed until the next day. And then then you mess up your next connection. Like, one of those could have just absolutely rippled into everything else. Was that ever close to happening? I know not making it to the airport was close to happening, but did you have anything that was completely out of your control like that, where you're like, oh shit, of all the things to have happen, they're doing plane maintenance or something like that?
Yeah, of course. I mean, plane maintenance, weather, like these things are never within our control. We built enough time into our ride plan to miss a flight or two. Like we had built a ride plan to get around in like 17 and a half. So we thought if we miss a flight or two, we can add a day and still make it. It'll be close. And that might make a good ending, for the movie. We ended up being extremely fortunate that every flight they all went on time. Like, when does that ever happen? And that was, a huge difference maker in the end, because that last leg, when you're trying to get from Australia to Alaska, that's something that only happens every 24 hours. So if you miss that flight, you're like a full day behind, and there's no alternative, because the route from Hawaii to Anchorage is like a rare route.
Was that the motivation for the night scene? I don't want to ruin the film for anyone who hasn't seen it, but the scene with the kangaroos and the riding across, like, was the urgency there just about like the flight?
Yeah, it basically always is, and this is something that. Hopefully we'll do a good job of representing in the graphics. Like, a lot of the graphic sections, which for you guys are just like blank slates with like GFX written on it, are going to show us, heading towards an airport, with a series of Ducati vans, like connecting the dots, because at every airport we needed to hit it right when they were getting there so we could like drop our bikes and run to make the flight. But meanwhile, on the next continent, there's a Ducati van coming, because as soon as we land, it's got to be there so we can like run out of the airport and hop on the bike. And keep moving. And another logistical challenge there is traveling without luggage, right? Like, you'd never want to have to wait for bags or risk losing them. So the whole thing, you have to fit in what you can carry on the plane, which, from a filmmaking perspective, is like pretty tough. Because there's, it can't be too big, and there's lithium requirements and all the rest of it. So yeah, making flights was like the constant stress. And when we spoiled the ending, but when we finally made that last flight, to Alaska, we kind of looked around and we were like, damn guys, we sort of have this record in the bag. Like, if we made this one, then, we can basically chill and get around in 17 and a half or 18 or 18 and a half or whatever. And that's kind of where we took the decision to just keep doing dumb shit and try to do it in 1623.
If you're going to do it, you might as well, you'd come that far, right? I feel like, it was probably I don't know how much you had that discussion going up to that moment, or maybe you weren't allowing yourself to think about that possibility until you actually got there. But it does seem like everything you had endured up to that point, if you had gone through that, then there's the classic, like, it's the last push, and might as well see what you can really do with the time and energy you have left. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's what it was.
So you mentioned the packing part, and I want to back up. I've got so many questions, but packing on a motorcycle trip is already hard enough, right? Like, if you're just taking a motorcycle trip around the world by yourself, fitting everything you might possibly need into 2 saddlebags is a challenge. But you had 3 people, 2 motorcycles, 4 saddlebags, right? And you also were trying to film this. Like, during the planning phase, what went in, like, how much time and effort were you trying to just figure out what you're going to take with you? Like, temperature ranges.
Spurgeon wants to know, how many pairs of underwear did you bring? He has not gotten sleep.
I feel like 1 pair is plenty, but then, as you saw, Connor's got, athlete's foot and, runs into you while trying to get to a drugstore. So it's like, maybe 2 pairs of socks would have been necessary.
I ran into him. That was completely my fault. Yeah. Yeah, my feeling on motorcycle packing is that people overthink it way too much. Like if you want to go around the world and you have a passport and a credit card, you can go.
But they're not. But most people aren't filming, right? Like you were also trying to bring back a product, right?
Totally. So from the film side of things, we had that yellow box that lived on top of the luggage rack of the multistrada, and that was very organized. So inside of this Pelican case, there's like a couple V-mount batteries or like big batteries that charge off the bike, so that from that we can power all the different little things. So action cameras and communicators and our camera batteries for our A-cam, and a variety of other stuff. And so that was built out very strategically. And it had to be organized in a way so that when we stopped for, gas stations had to be less than like 7 minutes, and like a good one would be like sub 5. So we'd stop and Edwin would like hop off, open the thing, and have to be able to like pull out the camera and the lens he needed and get shooting like right away. So that was organized quite well. From a packing standpoint for us though, yeah, each dude had a saddlebag. So 4 saddlebags. So I had one, Connor had one, Edwin had one, and then one of them was also for film gear. So we each just had like one of these aluminum panniers. And, to go into Spurgeon's underwear, question, I think I had 7 pairs of underwear. I think I had
luxury.
Man, oh man, Spenser only let me have 2 pair when we went to India. And
if you go inside and outside, that's really
that's exactly what I was thinking. 2 weeks,
14 days.
One on each side. I had lots of underwear, lots of socks, but then like clothing is like, you've seen the film. I'm basically going the whole way around in like 1 of 2 pairs of pants, which are the exact same pair of pants.
But you also had quite a temperature range at times too, right?
Yeah, that's it. So that's a tricky thing. That's where the record has to be set in either the fall or the spring. Mm-hmm. Because you need there to not be snow in Alaska, but you need it to not be like disastrously hot in like Miami and Portugal and Spain, India and Malaysia, where it's hot anyway. I apologize for the coughing. I've got something right now. I don't know.
That's okay. I was just choking on my drink. So like we're good. Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
I managed to hit the mute button quick enough as I was like, I'm dying over here.
Anyway, fall or spring, so that the temperature swing is not as extreme, as it could be, but even still it's pretty gnarly. So like a huge chunk of the India, Thailand, Malaysia, Singapore leg, I'm just in a t-shirt. It's not a safe choice, but it's very comfortable. And
in the context of the overall risk taking of the episode, it's probably fair game, right? Like at that point, you're kind of like, you just got to get to the next.
Yeah, but
video.
I saw that.
Yeah, I mean,
I was more about like, I would just imagine like the sunburn, like going across India. Like, I feel like at least like a mesh jacket keeps the sun. Like I was watching you do the t-shirt thing. And I was like, oh, you got to be frying, man.
Even mesh jackets are so hot. Con tried it for a while. He like was really like wearing his jacket for much of it. And he's like, no, like safety, I'm going to do this. And that's, great for him. But even him by then was like, screw this, dude. It's so freaking hot. You get so caked, like your arms are just black from like the soot and the road grit after a while. It actually keeps the sunburn off, reasonably well. So yeah, it was, a t-shirt and pants for a huge chunk of the way around. And then it was like a sweater and pants for the rest of it. I had a rain shell that I put on like when it was really cold, which it did get like, there were parts of the Australian leg where we were seeing like -7, -8 on the dash. It was actually colder than we ever saw in Alaska, which surprised us. We didn't do our research properly and didn't realize that Australia in September was that cold on the Nullarbor. So big swings, but credit card, passport, and like some clothes. You can pack for a round the world trip in 10 minutes for sure.
There you go. That's a hot take right there.
I have some questions about specific scenes, but before we get to that, I feel like it would, I was curious when I first heard about you guys doing this and especially knowing what it takes, as we've already discussed, to incorporate filming into a trip like this. Ryan, can you sort of walk through the full timeline of this project from this is when we actually decided we were going to do it. It's a real thing. How long did that sort of planning stage take to the time you actually filmed? And then even, we're now over a year since you filmed and it's coming out, a little bit from now. So like, what's the kind of 10,000 foot view of everything you guys put into this?
Yeah, I think 2.5 years. So I heard about the trip at the ABR festival, which is usually like late June. And then we started planning and we did the ride the following September. So like a year and 3 months after I first heard about it. And then we didn't finish the pickups until the September after that. So then we're at like 2 years and 3 months. And then it's coming out, 3 months after that. So yeah, 2.5 years from start to finish. Basically a year and a bit just in planning. And when I say planning, I mean mostly like figuring out film permits, visas, and a motorcycle sponsor. And then we did the ride itself, and then it's a year and a bit in post-production between getting those pickups that we had to wait for the fall for, and also just editing. Film takes a really long time. Is
Edwin your editor as well? Is he editing the whole thing?
Yeah, Edwin's editing the whole thing. We have another one of my buddies, Luke, doing the graphics. He shoots and edits for us too. He's a really good motion and graphic designer. And then another one of our buddies, Sid, is doing the sound design and the music. And we have some original music in the film too, which is cool. So we've hired out a few places, but Edwin is doing the bulk of the edit.
How sick is he of looking at the footage at this point? Or is he still excited?
I think he's pretty sick of it at this point. The audio files were just redonkulous because we were wearing mics 24 hours a day. And so when he got back, he had to just put in the headphones and like go for runs and live his life and just like do life while listening to us talking shit in our helmets. Cause he had to somehow get through like 17 days of audio files.
For those of you listening, you can't see the look on Spencer's face right now. Spencer, this is like he looks shell shocked. Yeah,
my palms are sweating thinking about going through that much audio. I mean, we will regularly do shoots that are a week or two, but we're not recording constantly. It feels like we are, but compared to I think what you guys were probably doing, it's really not constant. And yeah, just the amount of audio that was one of my biggest takeaways from the video is the audio truly is your backbone of this experience because it is this like constant sort of way to anchor the audience in what you're experiencing. It's one thing to see it, and obviously you have a lot of beautiful shots and a lot of diverse locales, but whether it's the sort of going insane moments where it's late at night and you guys are semi-hallucinating or maybe actually hallucinating, or it's some of it is even commenting on things that as an audience member, I might not have known what we were looking at, like the guy sitting in the middle of the road in India, like these heavy moments that the audio, you need that audio in order to tell the story, and to go through that much of it and make it coherent, to make it, put it in a sequence where the audience can follow what's being said and why that context matters is absolutely Herculean task. So my hat is off to him. That's amazing.
Yeah, mine too. It was a mammoth task, but like you say, we thought really an important one, because we wanted the whole narrative to be real, and that was critical to getting those moments. Like when we passed the guy, who's in the middle of the road trying to commit suicide, you can hear in our voices, it's like, whoa, like, so let's stop everything and like go see and whatever. Same thing when we're super tired in Australia, you can hear it in our voices, like our voices are cracking and just brutal. And it's like, oh man, this fucking sucks, like I just don't want to do this anymore. And that's great too. And it's, I think in a lot of places a little bit funny. I wanted the film to be almost more of a dark comedy than it is an adventure film, because I don't really like the cliche, like, we're going to go around the world and find ourselves and like have the journey, and the journey is inside, and what was at home mattered. And like this whole like cliche storylines have been worn in like so many times. And the reality is that we're lucky shits who get to go on vacation and call it work. And it's just kind of stupid and fun and funny. And so we wanted the film to be a little bit stupid and fun and funny. And a big part of that was getting, really good location audio, which poor Edwin had to sift through when we got back.
I hope after the video comes out, you guys you don't talk to him for like 6 months. You just you don't need to hear our voices. We'll do sign language in the office. We're going to give you a break because you earned it.
Yeah, he needs it. Every time I see him, which is not that often because he's usually deep in the editing suite and working on the film, when I do see him, I'm always like, oh, buddy, you know, it's good to see you catch up. And he's like, oh man, I feel like I've seen you this whole time, you know, 'cause he's been living in our heads, in our absence. So yeah.
So from a like, you know, a production, you know, kind of, angle, like, did you guys have conversations ahead of time? Like you talked about, like you wanted it to be more of a dark comedy than a traditional adventure type piece, right? So like, there were moments where, you know, just kind of talking about the guy sitting in the middle of the road. What kind of discussions did you guys have about like commentary about it versus just letting the moment happen? Because it seems like what you tried not to do, and maybe correct me if I'm wrong, but you tried not to, you know, break down the experience for the viewer by then sitting down and having like a quick interview with Ryan or Connor saying like, what did you see here? It was more about like letting the audience see it through your perspective and then moving on. And how much of that was a decision with, you know, what you wanted the film to be versus like 12 hours down to an hour and a half?
It was a conscious decision in what we wanted the film to be. Edwin and I both enjoy things that are like more show than tell. And we found through like doing, you know, the job that all of us have for a number of years, that like the audience is usually like extremely intelligent. And so you don't have to sit down and like do a diary cam and be like, oh man, like today I saw a dead guy on the road and I'm feeling like it sucks and I've got a family at home and what are we really doing here? Like when you spell those things out, it's okay. But you can also just show that moment and like show your real reaction to it, which will not be very profound. Like when I'm reacting to that moment, I'm like wiping bum cream on my butt because I've like got a huge rash. And I'm like, oh man, we just saw a dead guy. That freaking sucks. And then, you know, in Malaysia, I'm calling my daughters, right? And so like the audience kind of, in watching that, will understand the same conclusions that you would spell out for them anyway. But there'll be conclusions that are like more real to them because they filled in the blanks rather than like you trying to fill it in for them. So I always like show rather than tell because I think in the end, the story feels more profound to the viewer because they're like putting their own life experience in to fill in the blanks rather than me filling it with my noise. So, so that was a decision we made pretty early on. Like another example of it would be the confabulation. So like there's this thing that happens when you're like, if you have a patient who's like clinically sleep deprived, their brain will start to confabulate like reality and imagination, but in a way where you can't tell the difference. So particularly in the latter stretch, like through Southeast Asia and through Australia, I would be seeing like really specific things. Like I was always seeing like big skulls and men on horses, like statues. And it was to the point where it'd be like, oh man, like this must be some like war hero or something, guys, like just talking because I've seen this like statue of a guy on a horse. And then when you come by it, it just turns into like a bush or a tree or something. And it's really weird because your brain like fully saw it and you're like planning how to ride based on this thing. You're talking about this thing, like you fully see it as reality. And then sometime later it just switches to something else. And you're really like, can't trust what you're looking at anymore. And that's a real thing that happens. And I could like sit down in a diary cam and like explain that to the audience. Yeah. But we thought it'd be more fun to like just put the audience in the driver's seat and let them wonder if what they saw was real or not. So, excuse me, there's all kinds of places in the film, some of which you'll have seen and some of which are coming with the graphic work, where there's riding footage and there's things on the side of the road that are there and then gone the next, or that are one thing and then become something else. And we're not going to talk about it. We're just going to have it there so that the viewer who's watching the movie is like, what the hell was that? Did I just see that? And then they start to realize like, oh, okay, like this is what it feels like to be super, super tired on a motorcycle. So yeah, creative choice. We'll see in the end whether it works out or not.
Well, that I guess what's interesting to hear you talk about that is, you know, you have, there's the often sort of said mantra about filmmaking that the story gets written 3 times, right? You have your initial script or concept of what you're going to do that you write out and you're like, I have a vision and this is what it's going to be. And then you go and film it and it gets rewritten because you can't script reality. You don't know what you're going to encounter. You can't predict exactly those border crossings you had that are you just sort of absolutely wrought with tension. And, and that I imagine that shifts. All of a sudden, this is a scene that we need to sit in and experience. And it wasn't something we necessarily planned for. And then you have the third time you write it, which is when you edit it, and you then get another opportunity to tell the story. So I guess I'm curious, how similar is the final version, or as final as we've seen, to the version that you and your team imagined when you set out to make it? Did it shift more than you expected, or do you feel like, oh yeah, that's kind of what we set out to make?
I think it shifted like 100%. I think the original script would be unrecognizable to what the movie ended up being. For those who don't know, you still script and write a documentary, which is weird. But if you're pitching a documentary to a studio or you want to make a documentary, you still write a script, and it's just all imagined stuff at what you think might happen. So I wrote a full script for this movie that had a story arc and points of tension and a climax and whatever, based on what I thought might happen. And the reason you do that is partially so that you can show it to studios or to sponsors or whoever that you need to sell the movie to. And it's partially so that you can storyboard it. And when you go, you're not like flying blind. You at least have some idea what you're trying to get to make a movie out of it. But of course, the reality was in the trip, entirely different things happened. We had different tense points, and things that we thought were hard were easy, and things that we thought were easy were going to be hard. And it changed the way the whole movie was, so that we rewrote it when we got back, and then kind of rewrote it again after we were watching the early cuts, because a lot of the times what you remember as being interesting is not that interesting when you see it on the screen. So it's at a point now where it's changed completely from what we originally envisioned. And for us, that was like a very new challenge, because FortNine videos typically are 100% scripted. I really like research and writing. And so I kind of put all my work there. And when it comes to the production day, I just deliver precisely what we've written and storyboarded, and that's the cut, and it goes out. So working like doc style for us was an entirely new thing.
Was it hard for you as a host? Like I would imagine that you're used to like knowing what your lines are, you deliver your lines, you're excellent at it. And then this is something where it's a little bit more off the cuff. What was that like for you being, the main character in the film?
Super challenging. I think so challenging that I'm maybe not the main character in the film. The thing we realized when we got back is that my buddy Connor is a whole lot more interesting to watch than I am in real life. Because I'm like a pretty flat guy. Most of the time, Edwin stuck camera face. He's like, day 13, we've been awake 40 hours. How are you feeling? I'm like, yeah, pretty good. Tired, which doesn't make a great movie. And if I were to like script a movie, I'd have written something else, right? That was, along some plot arc and pithy and funny and whatever, but I don't want to do that because we wanted to make something real. So when we came back, we realized that I'm in real life pretty boring, and Connor is actually much more interesting. He wears his emotions on his sleeve, and he's funnier off the cuff. So that shifted a lot of the movie as well, where the original script was sort of a movie about Ryan, and then we came back and it became more of a movie about like the three of us, and then became in the end maybe a movie more about Connor. All of us, of course, feature heavily in the film, and the relationships between us are quite important. But big challenge for me, very different from what I'm used to.
Well, I want to jump more into the relationships between the three of you. We're going to take a quick break for a word from our sponsor, and then we'll be back more with Ryan on the new documentary coming out from FortNine. All right, so we are back, and we were just kind of starting to touch on like the characters in the film, right? So there's Edwin, there's Connor, and there's yourself, Ryan. And I think anytime you're involved in a production like this, the interpersonal relationships really can be make or break, especially on some of these, larger form, video recording sessions, motorcycle trips. You're talking about how lucky we are to get to do this, but if you're doing it with people you don't like, sometimes that can feel like more of a chore than, Spenser and I are very fortunate we work with a lot of people that we consider friends. So can you break down, maybe Spenser doesn't consider me a friend, but I don't know. That's another podcast for another day. Like, can you walk us through, Ryan, a little bit of the interpersonal relationships, that exist between the three of you off camera, and how did that really kind of help or hurt the production?
Yeah. Off-camera background, I mean, Con is a guy that I've known for probably, 3 years, something like that. He works at FortNine, so he did some moto videos for us for a while. He's doing some boating content for us now. FortNine sells boat stuff too, and they want YouTube videos about it. So I've known him that long. Edwin, even shorter. We were quite lucky to get Edwin. He is a Lebanese guy who left when things were kind of popping off there and landed in Vancouver and just like needed a job. And we were the first thing he found. He was sort of overqualified for the little YouTube racket we're running. He's done a lot more higher level filmmaking in the past. But we were lucky to just be in the right place at the right time to land the guy. So none of us have known each other like a crazy long time. But we're good buddies and we're the same. We have the exact same level of comfort with discomfort, which I think is the critical thing when you're choosing people to like go on a motorcycle trip with or do a climbing expedition with, or anything that's going to be a strain on your personal relationships. We're all kind of in the same ballpark where we like to push to the same amount and we're kind of comfortable with the same amount of risk. And at the same time, when it gets really silly or really hard, we're kind of all looking around at each other, waiting to see like, okay, like who's gonna, throw in the towel, because we all want to quit at this point. So that made things quite easy. I'd say, like on the world tour, the world record, our relationships weren't a critical point, either to the film or to the real life experience. Like we weren't screaming at each other. We weren't falling apart. We weren't, ever worried about that being a problem. There's like kind of like the cliche, like when you do something hard, that's like the truck going over the bridge, and then like all the cracks in your relationship like come out under that strain. I'd say we were not really close to finding the cracks. We were all still making jokes and laughing and being buddies, and it was all cool. So not much drama there, but yeah. It made for an enjoyable shoot and an enjoyable ride.
Yeah, I mean, and especially I think there's a degree of trust having a passenger that goes both ways, right? I think that's something you guys don't really address in the documentary. Is I imagine that was not always easy. It seemed like, Ryan, you had Edwin on the back for most of it. Did you have him on the back the entire time?
All of it. Yeah. We wanted to kind of like to meet all the previous record breakers on their own ground. And Kevin and Julia, when they set the record, did it 2-up. So at least one of us wanted to try doing it 2-up. And I have more years riding than Connor did. And I was happy to be the guy who took Edwin.
Was there any point when you regretted that decision, perhaps ripping through India with an inch of clearance on either side of you?
Yeah, of course.
I mean, it'd be dicey riding solo, let alone with, a cameraman. I've filmed a lot off the back of a bike, and occasionally we swing a camera over to one side and it shifts the whole weight of the bike, and it's not easy. Yeah, absolutely. And Edwin, having never gone on a motorcycle trip before, I think was unaware of the effect his body had on the dynamics of the machine. So he'd be like doing yoga back there and like doing full stretch routines and like rolling cigarettes in his little kangaroo pouch. And filming like contortionist positions because he wants a shot like low to the ground, all kinds of weird stuff. And I'm like, ooh, holy shit. But in many ways, he's the perfect pillion because he's not stressed by anything. And he keeps it interesting by moving around a lot, but boy, that keeps you awake. And the trust he had in me is, it's like a very like, it's sort of awe-inspiring, or like maybe I'm dumbstruck by it. I don't know how to feel about it. Because I would never sit behind someone. You're like, I would never trust me. What are you doing? Yeah.
But it's like, the hard, like being a motorcyclist and riding pillion is probably one of the hardest things to do mentally. Like you're putting your trust in somebody else to ride the way you want to ride.
I think it's harder. The more experience you have riding, the harder it becomes. But I feel like if you aren't, used to really being in control for a lot of years of riding, then it's maybe easier to be like, I don't know, it seems like you know what you're doing. It's probably not that bad up there, right? Not realizing how challenging that probably was for you at times.
Yeah, it's maybe good that he had almost no riding experience because he just took it totally out of his hands. Like we had a conversation early on where he was like, I trust you completely. Like, you do that and I worry about the film and like, we're good.
But there was a B-roll shot.
It was fully like that. So we're like weaving through shit in India.
Yeah, but
like,
there was a B-roll shot in Australia where you did a jump with him on
jumping.
the back.
Yeah.
And like, it looked like he was like just throwing himself into you.
Oh
like,
my God.
Yeah.
It was a bad idea. We rocked up on this like perfect looking jump. And him and I both kind of got to talking. We were like, I've never done a jump with a pillion. He's like, I've never done a jump as a pillion. Like, I think we could do it.
Send it.
Yeah, just send it, right? Like, I don't know. I don't think either of us had any idea what to really do to prepare for that. But
was that in the actual record? Did you film that on the actual record, or was that?
No,
like,
that was in the pickup trip in May.
Okay.
We had a little more time to like
I would say like the risk reward of like, we're trying to beat a record. Let's go do a 2-up jump scene.
It didn't make any sense. And like the shot isn't even that good, but we put it in the cut because I think we're both just so fond of that moment, because it was just completely see the pass. It's like, I'm going to try standing, like you try like hunkering as small as you can and just try to be like a bag on the back, and we'll just send this thing and see how it goes. And we were like a hair's breadth from crashing. One of my feet is like way up off the peg because I'm like losing the bike, and it was that was dumb. It was pretty close to being a bad ending there.
Isn't it great when you do all that and then you see the shot and you're like, it's okay.
Oh, it happens all the time. All the coolest shit looks like nothing in the final shot. But what do you do?
And I mean, I feel like kind of on the topic of riding with a pillion and everything you guys are trying to do. Can you talk to us about the bikes? Obviously, it sounds like, and it was evident in the video, you forged a partnership with Ducati, and they were able to provide a lot of assistance, but it also had to be a platform that made sense for what you were trying to do. So how did that come about?
Yeah, that was a big challenge. So
what were the bikes for the audience that hasn't seen? Like,
the bikes
can you tell us what you're
are
on?
Multistrada V4 rallies. So the bigger 30-liter tank Multistrada V4. Which is a great platform. It can run on just the rear two cylinders, so it can go pretty far between tanks. The V4 engine is a huge laugh. So if you're exhausted and you want to wake up, you can twist your wrist and wake up. It's the engine that they tuned to like 200 and some horsepower in their world superbikes, a variant of it. So in its detuned state, like it makes 160 in the Multistrada, it's actually like really under stress. So the service intervals are really long, and it's, for us at least, a flawlessly reliable platform. We didn't have any problems with it. But I'm very bike agnostic. So when we started this process, I just reached out to everyone I know in the manufacturer side of the industry to say, hey, I want to do this round the world race thing. And it would mean being able to drop a bike off at the airport in Miami, pick one up in Lisbon, drop that off in Istanbul, pick the next one up in Mumbai, drop that off in Kolkata, pick the next one up in Bangkok, drop that off in Singapore, pick the next one up in Perth, drop that off in Sydney, pick the next one up in Anchorage, and then ride back. So it's logistically quite difficult and requires a company that has global coverage and the ability to sort out all those bikes. So a few manufacturers off the bat were just like, we can't really do this. But most of them just said, we don't want any part of this. It's too dangerous. Both in that we could really hurt ourselves, but also dangerous from a marketing perspective, because if anything goes wrong with the bike, that will probably be the reason that we don't get the record. And that will probably be the climax of the movie. And then you have a whole movie made on how your bike screwed up and ruined a world record attempt, which is not a good look. So to Ducati's credit, they were the only manufacturer that was in. And right off the bat,
there were no other contenders. Like
no other contenders. Nobody else wanted it. And Ducati from the get-go was like, yes, we're a racing company. Like, we can do this. We'll be very funny. We understand. To the point where they were like, do you want tire warmers on the bike at the airport? I was like, I don't know. I'm not going to be going like knee down coming out of the parking lot, But they were all in. They understood that it was a race, that it was dangerous, but that is part of the joy of racing. And they had the global reach to be able to make it happen logistically.
It seemed like they also it seemed like in addition to like the bikes, like they truly did support you. Like there was a scene, I believe it was at like the Serbian or the Turkish border where like there were issues happening because the bikes were technically not your bikes. And, you were on the phone with them and they were almost acting as like a fixer for you as well in certain situations. So like, were those conversations you guys had ahead of time where like they knew that they were going to be playing a larger role, or was that just like, hey, we're stuck at the border and we need your help?
Yeah, it was not something that we knew we would need ahead of time. We picked up those bikes in Lisbon, and one of them was missing its paperwork, and the papers for it were in Barcelona. Because they were Spanish press bikes, I guess. So we had to kind of detour from our route to go get these papers. And we thought, okay, this will all be fine. And then when we get to Turkey, we find out it's actually far more complicated than that. And because neither of us are EU citizens, but they're EU bikes, we can't even legally bring them into Turkey. And the paperwork was not good paperwork. One of them was a copy and that wasn't going to work. And there's a variety of problems. And it got to a point where we were kind of talking about, okay, this is not going to happen. Like, can we leave the bikes in Bulgaria and somehow like beg or borrow a motorcycle to ride to the airport? Because it's only like 2.5 hours to the airport from the Turkish border, but it has to be done on a bike or else the record is not really the record. So we were looking at losing like a day and finding out an alternative way to make it happen. And I was on the phone with the Ducati Istanbul guy saying, hey, like, this is what's going on. We might not be making it, unfortunately. And I didn't realize how things work in Turkey, where he's immediately like, who's talking to you? What are you talking about? Put me on the phone with them. So he's on the phone with this lady and he's like, I know this guy and this is bullshit and you're going to make this happen. And he's coming right now. And so this Ducati fixer guy sends another man who comes up to the border and is like doing a rush import. So they're like legally going to like sell the bikes to Ducati Istanbul. So they become Turkish bikes and then we're going to ride them there. And this process takes like a week and he's trying to get it done in like 30 minutes. And there's all kinds of like money flying different directions and some people are pissed and some people are really happy. And we're sort of like, I don't understand anything.
And the whole time Edwin doesn't stop rolling.
No, Edwin's rolling the whole time and we got body cameras on and
Connor, they were yelling at him to stop rolling, and he's like, "No, I'm not. I'm presuming he's just like standing there, right? Like,
he's standing there like this. He's like, "I'm not rolling," which nobody believes, right? And Connor and I are trying this like good cop, bad cop thing, where I'm like working with the Spanish police officer, like, "Look, I got papers, I got this, we got a visa approved, like, it's all above board, and Ducati's this, that, and the other." And Connor is chatting with this other cop, and he's like, "Hey, how you doing? And like, check out these stickers, and like, oh, have you ever been to Austria?" And he's like, kind of flirting with her. And Edwin, meanwhile, is filming the whole thing and he's not supposed to do that. And we finally get released from the Turkish border. Our flight is in like 45 minutes and it's a 2.5 hour ride. So we're still thinking this is never going to happen, but we'll get there and figure it out. And our Ducati fixer guy is saying, I don't think you can make it. This is not going to happen. But I just saw, and your flight got delayed, and our flight was delayed like, an hour or something, which bought us a little bit of time, but still probably not enough. So then he's saying like, I've done this in my car in an hour and a half. You can make it in 45 minutes on the bikes. Disregard the speed limits. Use the emergency lane. This is an emergency. And so Edwin and I are like, I've been training my whole life for this moment. Like, let's go. So we hop on the bike, and we fill gas and Connor goes to pay for it because he doesn't have as much experience riding fast. And Edwin and I are just like, let's go. This bike can do 265 and we can just hold it there, and just fly to the airport. I'm like screaming on the bike because I'm having the time of my life. And from all the screaming, I just get this nosebleed. And because the air is rushing like super fast, my nose is like pouring because it's just getting sucked out from the low pressure. So there's blood everywhere, all over me and all over the bike. And we're just racing. We finally meet this Ducati fixer guy and he looks at me and he's like, what happened? He thought I killed like a pedestrian or something. He's like, you can't go to the airport like this. So he's kind of like cleaning me off and like we're trying to get me presentable. And meanwhile, Connor's still coming. And then he's arranged another guy who I guess used to work for Turkish Airlines or something to be our handler through the airport. So we enter Istanbul airport and the place is like heaving. There's like mobs of people. There's a million people everywhere. You'd never get through to a flight in the, 10 minutes that we had left at that point. But this bald guy who doesn't speak English, the Ducati fixer's like, don't lose this guy because he's your ticket, but you can't talk to him. We just follow him through this side door and we're in this like pristine other world where there's check-in and security, but none of it is really check-in and security. They just kind of like look at you and go, here you go, sir. And you go to security and they look at you and go, here you go, sir. And nothing gets looked at. It's some sort of like first class private plane side of the airport. I don't even know, a world that we don't belong to. And this guy whisks us through there and down to the plane. And we get there and the flight's been delayed another 30 minutes. So he's like, 30 minutes, Starbucks is there. Here you go. And he just disappears. That was the end of probably the most insane day of my life, because that morning started in Aranzano in Italy. All the border kerfuffle that took 4 or 5 hours in the end. And then this mad dash to the airport. And so now we hop on the plane. We have, 5-6 hours to sleep, and then it's 5 a.m. in Mumbai, and it's a new stage. And
yeah, but thankfully the ride through Mumbai was very relaxing. You could really just sort of turn your brain off.
So chill. Yeah,
dude. I feel like I want to have an entire podcast episode just talking about like what it's like to ride in India, because like watching your little section in India just took me back to when Zach and I were in India, and like it's just. Was there a more stressful part of the trip from a riding perspective, or was like India like a whole new, level?
India was definitely the most. It was the most fun. I hesitate to even call it stressful because it's such a free for all that you're not even really thinking.
That's one way of putting it.
Yeah, it's sort of schools of fish, right? There's no rules that you have to obey. So if you can dart across there, you can. If you want to go on the wrong side of a 2-lane highway at night with your lights off, you can do that. And there's going to be cows and like a farmer with goats, and but you can take the sidewalk, or you could go through that person's yard. I've never ridden in a place where you have total freedom. Like carte blanche, do whatever you want. That seems like the way that most of the locals ride, and pretty quickly we were doing the same. I apologize to anyone that I like cut off and was an to, because we definitely got a little carried away after a while, but
as you said, that is sort of the nature of transit there. It's kind of liberating, because people are honking their horns and cutting you off, but it's not, nothing is ever personal. It's just sort of like, I had to get over there, so I went over there, and you're like, cool, I guess if we're all allowed to do that, then I'm not pissed off by one little infraction, because we're all just kind of doing our thing.
There's zero road rage. Like nobody ever gets mad, which is amazing, because you drive around here and, land of law and order, and people are screaming at each other and like, getting violent over some merging thing, right? Yeah. And over there, because it's a free for all, nobody's stressed, nobody's angry. It's just like everyone's taking in the insane colors and the insane bustle and honking 5 times a minute, but nobody's pissed about it. It's actually like, it's really beautiful. And I think for a city like Mumbai has a population officially that's like the same as Canada's, and unofficially it's probably quite a bit more. I think the only way to get that amount of people around a city like that is the system that they have. If you had people like obeying a gridwork of traffic laws like we have here, it would take 12 hours for you to like get 5 blocks over. So
do you remember seeing any traffic lights?
No. Well, there are some. Like, I think leaving Mumbai, there were a few places that had them. There was one boulevard that was like lined with palm trees. You'd have thought you were in like Los Angeles for a moment. It was like new and immaculate. Yeah. And the country is like is developing so fast that it's in a really interesting place right now, where you have areas like that, and then you have areas that are look like India 30, 40 years ago, probably, where you're never going to see a traffic light. So very, very interesting worlds. My buddy Anish, who shoots nets for FortNine all the time, he is the guy that I kind of grew the channel with like 7-8 years ago now, is from Mumbai, or near Mumbai, Pune. So we had him to help us through that, which was pretty cool, because we pretty immediately just locked onto his back tire and did what he did. So
yeah, when Spencer and I were there, we were up. We started in New Delhi, and like that was my first thing. Was like, I'm like, where are all this? There's no stoplights. Like you get to an intersection, and it's just kind of like. You just kind of make your way through it. And
stoplights just slow you down, Spurge.
Slow you down.
Yeah, it's the rule of like the majority, right? Like people are going when they're the big group, but that'll stop other people. And when they get big enough that they realize like, I can eat this fish, they just start to go. And then everyone else has to stop because they're not the big group anymore, right? And so it organically like works. because the majority eventually will exert their dominance. But it's such an interesting way to do traffic. It's so different from what we have here.
Well, on the topic of Law and Order, I feel like I saw some snippets, but I can't entirely be sure. What was your relationship with both speed limits and speed limit enforcement?
Yeah, so
I couldn't quite tell. I was like, was that a traffic stop, or was that just
perks of watching the film before graphics? So we may end up blurring some things in the final cut
to whatever degree.
Not that there's anything to blur. We sure speed limit the whole way around, but there's specific moments like the race to the Istanbul airport where I think it will always be pretty obvious that we're riding extremely fast. Generally speaking, breaking the record is not about going quickly. It's about riding as continuously as you can and like minimizing your stop time. And riding quickly fatigues you more because everything's coming at you faster and the wind is like exponential and whatever. So the general beta on breaking this record is to actually do the speed limit or near it. And just ride tank to tank, make sure your gas stops are 5 to 7 minutes, and then, ride 24, 30, 40 hours and then sleep for like 2 or 3. And if you do that, you can break the record. It's not really about riding fast. It's just about riding really, really long. But yeah, there's definitely moments in the film where I think we'll have a hard case, trying to prove that we're not breaking records, even with whatever graphic magic we could do, or not breaking laws, I should say. So yeah, we'll.
Did you have any off the record incidents where you had to like sweet talk your way out of a?
Yeah, any speeding tickets or anything like that?
We only got pulled over once, or I got pulled over once in Australia. In Australia, you obey the speed limit, and we were warned about this by some of the people that we knew there. The Nullarbor means like no trees, but there's also like no buildings and no water and no food and no nothing. Like it's just, if you're on Mars for like 2 days. And for the cops, that means that they can get you with their radar gun before you can even see them. They're like at the curve of the earth, from like 7 miles away or whatever, and they'll get you. And they enforce it to a very rigorous extent. There's speed cameras. And so the rule in Australia is basically do the speed limit, because if you go more than, you will be caught, you will be given a ticket. It will take longer than if you just did the speed limit. So, you're better off to obey. And I forgot about that at one point and got a little goofy and of course got pulled over. But otherwise, no, we never got pulled over in North America and Europe. We got pulled over once in India and were able to, pay the fine on the roadside, which I think is a system that's been well used in much of the world for a long portion of human history. But generally, yeah, not much in the way of incidents.
Did you get any sympathy from the Australian officer when he said, "Yeah, we started in Vancouver, like 12 days ago"? Or did they? Did they have any appreciation for what you were trying to do? No,
not really. He was kind of like, "Oh yeah, right, cool, sir, mate. Anyway, like, look here, you've been, because I don't know, maybe that's a common way people try to get around speeding tickets. It was the same at the Turkish border. Like we tried telling the cop, like, "Hey, we're trying to break a record and we're trying to get this bill." They're like, "Oh yeah, really?
Sure, cool."
It doesn't matter to them. Yeah. And to be fair, we don't look like we're making a movie because Connor and I are pretty ragtag, and Edwin's got a camera, but we don't look like a film crew. We look like 3 dudes on some kind of dumb trip. So that didn't pull any favors for us, for sure.
So you talked about the continuous movement, right? And I think one of the things that struck me was the beginning of the film feels a little bit more relaxed, right? Like you pull into Livingston, Montana. It's so funny because you pull in.
Cool town, by the way.
It's so funny because you pull in and you're looking at this historic hotel, and I immediately freak out and I call Chase because you pull up to the Murray Hotel, and my wife and I got engaged in Glacier, And the night of our engagement, we stopped on the way home in Livingston, stayed at the Murray.
The Murray
and so
is
I have
awesome.
all these pictures of Nicole and I in front of the Murray.
That's so cool.
And then
Did you meet Vicky?
What'd you say, Ryan?
Did you meet Vicky, the lady at the front desk? She's
There was
been there
Vicky,
forever.
and then you guys went to the Mint to go drinking, and there's another bar called the Owl. And I originally, when you guys were showing pictures of the Mint, I have all these pictures of Nicole and I drinking and playing cards at the Owl. And I was like going back to see if like which bar you guys were at versus which bar we were at. But like that whole scene is like, it's relaxed and you're having a beer with the locals. And I was like, oh, like this is going to be really interesting. Like it's not about breaking the record. It's more about like interacting with the locals. And then all of a sudden it gets into like this sense of urgency in the film, and it kind of builds from there, and it goes right from there into Edwin's visa doesn't work, and like he's going to have to fly somewhere else. So like, you know, what was there an actual shifting point when you were filming where like all of a sudden you realized like, oh, we're going to have to be more continuous in our travel, and we're not going to be able to be as relaxed? Or was that something where you knew you had a little bit more time on the front end and then you had to go a little bit faster? How did that naturally play out for you?
I think for me, it was an organic realization. Like I'd seen the Gantt charts, I'd seen our ride schedule. I knew it was going to be tight, but I didn't feel yet how tight that had to be. And so our first ride, you know, we got from Hope to Livingston, which is like, I don't know, it's like 1,100 kilometers, something. It's like way short. Like we were supposed to be doing like more like 2,000 a day. At that point in the trip. But we hit a thunderstorm and we were kind of cold, and we were like, let's grab the next exit.
Did you really just find that hotel though? Or like, I feel like
the crazy thing is we did. I'd never heard of Livingston before in my life. It just started.
I was on the phone with Chase. I was like, there's no way he just found the Murray Hotel. Like, it's like,
we realized it was cool in hindsight. So it started hailing. And I was like, next exit, let's get off, because this isn't super safe. Because the thunderstorms in Montana are crazy.
Oh, they're crazy. Yeah.
And so we pull in there, and we didn't know what town it was. And turns out it was Livingston. And the Murray Hotel is like the hotel you see, right? It's got like a big light and it's a hotel. So we're like, go ask in here. And Vicky at the front desk was like telling me how, you know, usually it's like really expensive. It might be like $400 or $500 a night, but I could do you a deal, because she saw that we were like freezing and had just come off the road. And later after the trip, we got talking to Connor's partner, Cass, who spends a bunch of time in Montana. And she was like, oh, Livingston is awesome. Like, you guys got so lucky, but we didn't know at the time. That whole first night was just the luck of the draw. Another weird thing, and you guys can cut this from the episode if you want to or not, but did you recognize Jordan, the guy in the bar in Montana?
No.
Okay, so I walk into this bar because it was the only place that was still open for food. And from across the bar, I hear, "You fucking Canadian." And this guy comes over, and he used to work for RevZilla. He did some like writing stuff or something for you guys. But anyway, he knows like exactly who we are. And we tell him what we were doing. He's like, no way. He doesn't work for you guys anymore. But anyway, he used to work for RevZilla.
That was the guy you were talking to there?
Yeah, the guy in the bar who's like half drunk, and he's like, what are you doing now? And like, so you got a heated seat, you lucky whatever. He's, I don't know, look through the books. I'm gonna go
back and like, if he did writing, I'd be interested if it was copywriting, because if he did writing, he was on my team. So I'll have to go back and take a closer look at it.
That's how plugged in Spurgeon is as a manager. He's like,
I don't know who's on my team. I mean, I'm barely aware of what Spencer's doing half the time. So
that's it. But yeah, no, that whole first night was not the way it was supposed to be planned. And you can kind of see in a lot of the bar scenes, like Connor is quite stressed and a little bit pissed because he doesn't want to be having beers. He knows that we're like 600 miles behind and that we're kind of now. I'm not that aware of that. And I'm just kind of having a good time thinking like, oh, these will make cool shots for the movie. And this is a nice natural way to like talk through some of the process stuff. Because we knew in America, we wanted to explain to people like, this is what the record is, and this is how you break it, and you have to ride these distances and make your gas stops really short. We wanted America to just be like some logistical information stuff, so that when we got to Europe and India and Malaysia and things were getting hard, people had a good understanding of the baseline. And so I thought that night in Livingston would help with that. The next morning is when we started to realize, or I started to feel how far behind we were, and the pace kind of accelerates from there.
I'm gonna stop. I'm gonna say out loud as we're having this conversation. We, much like FortNine is dabbling in boats, we had dabbled a little bit in UTV ATV content.
Oh, yeah.
Jordan was the individual we had hired from Montana when we were going to dabble a little bit heavier in ATV, UTV than we ended up doing.
You have an earpiece in?
No.
Jordan.
Dude, I'm literally in
my good friend Jordan, who I definitely
I'm like Montana, but we never actually met in person. Like it was a remote hire. It was during the pandemic, so that's why the seeing him in the video, I didn't recognize him off the top of my head.
You wouldn't know his face.
But Jordan, if you're listening to this, I remember you, and it was good time.
It's such a crazy small world. And Jordan, if you're listening to this, thanks for asking all of the right questions. Yeah. he gave us a good excuse to be like, oh yeah, we're going to Miami, and then we're going to fly here, and then we're going to go there, and let's just like spell out the route without having to do a piece to camera or something to try.
Well, I know I'm interested in particular with some of the nuts and bolts of how you put the documentary together, but to me, that brings up the scene of when you first crossed the border into the United States. Was it your original plan that you were going to use that border crossing as you basically sort of backdoor it as a way to explain some exposition, possibly with some post-production magic? But was that an idea you had initially, or was that a post-production thing where you're like, oh, we could actually use this as a way to get that exposition out there?
That was something that we had kind of planned for. It was in the original script that when we crossed the American border, we knew they would kind of ask what we were doing and that it might be a good opportunity to really explain what we were doing. The problem that we had is that the guard was like not at all interested in the project.
Right, he's like, well, how many vegetables do you have?
Exactly. Yeah,
Tell me, you bastard.
Yeah.
No cigarettes. Do you have any tobacco or firearms?
That's it. He's kind of like, questions you always ask, where are you coming from? And I'm like, this is my opportunity. So like, oh, we left from Hope and that's on the route and it goes to Miami. We're doing this and Kevin and Julia Sanders did and Nick did that. I'm trying to like cram all these things in. And post-production magic for sure. Because in the real uncut audio, he kind of entrusts me. He's like, I don't need, I don't want to know about all this and like, tell me more about these cameras you're bringing in and whatever. So we kind of snip that out and then do some work to make the explanation more seamless because we're going to have graphics over it all that, trace out the original routes and whatever. But to answer your question, I kind of knew going in that I was a little bit of a double agent, was going to try to like turn this into a piece of camera. And it came off kind of half successfully.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's a great idea to, I think as Spurgeon brought up earlier, it's a way to avoid having to do these. To my memory, there were only maybe, 2 moments or maybe 2 or 3 where you really address the camera as sort of a, talking directly to the audience of, and this is what we're doing and this is how I feel and this is what, why it matters or how it relates to things. Because for the most part, there are many times where the information is woven sort of organically into another scene where you're telling someone else about what you're doing, or even when you're talking to your daughters and it ends up, providing all this context for the audience of, a little bit how you're feeling, but also where you are and what you're doing and the time change and all these different things that you sort of just absorb organically through that conversation.
Yeah. You're right. We kind of have 3, there's 3 instances where we talk to the camera. So Edwin talks to the camera once because his visa gets denied for Portugal. He can't enter Portugal. And because of that, he had quite a bit more time than we did because he flew ahead to Italy. Con and I went to Portugal and rode the bikes through Italy and picked him up on the side of the road. And so he talks to the camera briefly there because he had the surprise luxury of time. Not such a nice surprise for him. And then Connor talks to the camera in India after the crash. So
that's the gold bond foot powder.
Yeah,
scene,
exactly.
Right?
He finally gets his foot powder, and if you're listening to this before seeing the movie, Connor's feet diabolical smelling. Not like it sounds like a little joke, like haha, our travel buddies and his feet smell bad. It was
by his own admission, he's like, they're the worst I've ever smelled. There's something wrong with me.
Medically a problem. We were all like, dude, we're really worried about this. Like something, it's gonna fall off or something. I don't know what. And so he was desperate to get to this pharmacy, and in India saw one and hucked like a really quick U-turn. And I was behind him and didn't react quick enough, and we crashed into each other. Had the joy of joys going to our very kind Ducati people in India who arranged these press bikes for him, and had to explain that I crashed one of their press bikes into the other press bike. So after that, we got off the road and had a bit more time to like, okay, we need to like settle a bit and figure out, sleep a bit and figure out what we want to do from here, because we had a crash and we didn't want to have a crash. And so he had some moments there to talk to the camera. And then the last one comes in Hawaii, because the layover in Hawaii is like 12 hours. You fly from Australia to Hawaii. We had 12 hours to sleep and take some footage, and then you fly from there to Anchorage and go home. So that's where I talk to the camera in the airport in Hawaii and kind of lay out our options, which is basically to be safe or to not. So yeah, three kind of traditional diary cams, but otherwise the narrative is just pushed organically. And we have the diary cams. We actually took quite a few more diary cams throughout the world tour, and we made the decision in post to not use them because we felt like we were just recapping stuff that we could show in the moment rather than in the hotel room.
Well, that brings up, I know we probably have to move on to other things. I have one more question here. And that is there a moment you can think of, a darling that you had from this video, from the 12-hour cut that you had to kill? It didn't make it into the final video that you're like, man, yeah. I love that moment. I so desperately wish we could have kept it, but it didn't make sense for X, Y, and Z reason. Is there a moment that sticks out?
Yeah. Boy, there's a few. There's a really great scene in India where we're stuck behind these two buses that are like trying to pass each other in West Bengal. So like really curvy mountainous region of India. And they're having this like gnarly race. And we decided it would be like a fun game to just commentate on it like it's MotoGP. And so we're, like for 20 minutes, we're like really living this race between these two buses. And one of them's yellow, so he became Valentino, and the other one was red. And I think we decided he was Casey, and it was rad. And at the time we thought it was so funny. We're like, this would be a great moment in the film. And then we come back, and the cameras were like dirty as hell. The footage looks like crap. The audio's blown out because we're like too excited and destroying the mic. So that was definitely one there. Connor hit a huge bird in India and just like showered me with gore. And that was awesome and didn't make the cut because we couldn't find a place to put it. And India had so much in it. We probably lost the most from there because you could easily make an hour and a half from India. I mean, as you guys know, you made a very good film in India. And so we lost a lot of it there. We made a buddy in the traffic in Kolkata who was in this salmon shirt. And he was just kind of like, I'm the fastest guy in India. Like, see if you can hang with this. And we did. There were lots of like little stories within the big story that unfortunately didn't have a place to be put. So, those are a few, but man, I could chew you off for hours of stuff that got cut. Australia too, because I hit a number of kangaroos, but because it all happened at night, like we don't really have footage of it. The footage we have is like, we have some close calls and like we have lots of dead bodies and stuff. But luck of the draw, you're not wearing the nice helmet camera on the moment that you hit
After you hit the first kangaroo, you didn't put the nice helmet camera on?
You do. Well, I mean, right. You hit one, you put the camera on, then you'll see none for 30 minutes.
Don't let him give you a hard time. There's nothing that grinds my gears more than getting back from a long shoot and there's something you missed and we're like, whoa, you weren't rolling on that?
Yeah.
Like, I was just rolling for 2 weeks.
That's it.
We had it after when Spencer and I were in India, arguably the trip down from Umlingla was in some ways much more interesting, and we didn't roll cameras for the whole way back.
We like trespassed into China on accident.
Yeah. Oh, cool.
Got detained by the Indian military at the border.
Yeah.
But like
our cell phone switched service, and everyone's like, "Oh, we're not supposed to do that."
And I'm talking. I'm like, Spencer, are you rolling? He's like, no, the film is over. I got what I need. Like, we're not filming this. And I'm like, but this is really,
that's kind of the cool thing too. Is like, there's a movie that will always only exist in your guys' heads.
Yeah.
And in a lot of ways, that's really like the golden nugget, like what you produce for work is like great. But the kind of stuff that's not captured that you just have in memories is kind of the more special thing. And Con is really good at reminding me of that. He like literally couldn't care less about the movie. He's like, if we get back and our orange box got waterlogged and we have nothing, like I'm happy as a clam. Like he just wants the memories and the experience. He lives for nothing else. It's pretty cool.
So, that's kind of where I want to leave my last question. So, you talked about, you're in the bar scene and, Connor's like, hey man, we're trying to do something here. Let's put the beers down. And like, we got time. And he seemed throughout the entire film, a bit more urgent. He talked about he was having trouble sleeping while you guys were having an easier time sleeping. And then there's you, who I think Connor refers to as the fast oak tree. Cause you're just unflappable and like, you're very calm and cool and steady. And then there's, Edwin, who's just trying to document the whole thing and is almost a character in his own right. So, I like how you earlier said, it went from being a film about, maybe in the script, a film about yourself to really a film about these three friends, these three characters. And, we talked at the beginning of this conversation about, if you had a chance to refilm it and you went back and you added some pickup shots and things like that. But if you were to think about, yourself and Connor and Edwin, and you were starting this project from scratch all over again, knowing what you know now, what are there any things that you would change going into it? Is there anything that you would kind of augment to shift, or are you 100% just like, no, we would do it exactly the same way?
No, I don't think I'm cocky enough to think that I would do it the same way the second time. If I were to do it again, and this is actually a discussion that Edwin and I had when we first got back, you could radically change this movie to be a movie about Connor, and it would be quite a good movie because he, in many ways, had like a typical hero's journey. He started motorcycling like later in life. He hasn't been riding very long at all. He was like very self-conscious when he started this job. That he's like, I don't really know what I'm doing. I just started riding. So he was super thrown in the deep end to jump into like a world record attempt that is a really hard thing to do. And he went through like different stages throughout the trip where he was super stressed about it. He just thought, I'm not going to be able to do this. I'm not going to make it. I'm going to hurt myself or whatever. And he kind of broke through that and started to see and enjoy the experience kind of for what it was. Meanwhile, I'm starting from like a pretty egotistical place where it's like, I'm like this, like, big motorcycle guy. And like, this will be fine. We'll get a cool movie and it'll be easy. I kind of start from there. And later in the movie, we sort of switch. Like, we have this accident in India that's my fault. And then we have this kind of meditative moment in Malaysia where you realize that my motives are probably not necessarily good ones. And towards the end of the film, and it's not something that we captured super well because at this point we were really just tunnel vision on getting to that finish line and breaking the 16-day mark. Connor was like, he was the hero of it because I can't see at night very well. And it was like raining like crazy. And for the last, like, I don't know, a couple 100 miles, he was like the only reason where I kind of got back. Cause I was just like sitting on the back of his tires, like, I'm following you, man. Like this record's in your hands at this point. And so there's this really nice story there, of both of our characters, kind of starting in different places and ending up in very different places. And I think it would make quite a great movie. It would make a more serious movie. It would be like more of a drama documentary. And we probably had the footage to make it happen. So we had that conversation. We were missing way more to tell that story. It would have been a case of in shooting pickups, actually like recreating scenes and trying to act. And it was stuff that really happened. We just didn't capture it. And so we made the choice to not go there, primarily because we wanted our film to be a good time. Like voyeurism, life is hard. Like, let's just give people a good time and let them have an enjoyable escape. So we didn't really want to tell this like kind of sappy, dramatic story anyway. But also we're not actors and we weren't confident in our ability to go back and pull off that narrative arc. So we didn't do it. But if I were starting from zero, I would have scripted that story and shot that story in real time as it happens. And we probably would have got a pretty neat product out of it.
Was the shift for you in Malaysia the scene where you were talking to your daughters and like kind of like letting the audience see that like maybe your priorities, are, sometimes your head is back with your family versus being in the moment?
For sure. Yeah, it's exactly that. And that's that tension. And every motorcyclist probably wrestles with this. We have moments where we're like, what the hell are we doing? You know what I mean? Like we all have people who love and care about us. We're all very important to somebody. Yeah. And so there are moments where, riding just seems dumb. And it's easy on this trip to point to a bunch of moments where it was like, man, I haven't slept in 40 hours and I'm like flying through Malaysia or the traffic of Bangkok. Like that is objectively dumb. But even like every rider listening to this has probably had moments where they're like, whoa, that was not smart, you know, and you scare yourself a little bit and you feel like you took a risk that you didn't really have permission to take, from yourself, from your family, from your God, from whatever. And that's a tension that I think motorcyclists constantly wrestle with. And it's something that we could have delved into quite a lot more. Like there's philosophical consequences of this. We can talk about, you know, risk taking and why it may or may not ever be worth it. And there's movies there too. As it is, we kind of didn't delve into it and just let people see the things and decide how they feel about it for themselves.
Well, I think that's probably a great place to wrap it up in the fact that like there's a movie out from not just Ryan, but Connor and Edwin over on FortNine. And it sounds like there's no shortage of ideas for future smaller movies, other movies.
Tell Edwin he can go ahead and start working on the next version of the cut, which will be released next year. And just for the rest of his life, every year he can release a new version of this video.
Yeah, I think we'd kill him if we did it. No, we're going to put this one to bed. We'll figure out how we're going to release it. And by the time this goes out, hopefully we'll be able to have a link for people where they can go watch this thing. But in the future,
do you have a title for it yet? Like I know, like by the time we air this, we'll have a title to share with the world. Do you have a working title for it?
Embarrassingly, no. Internally, we've been calling it like Around the World in 16 Days. It's kind of like just what we've been calling it when we talk about the project. But I don't know if that'll be the title. We're going to have to settle on something. We have a new trailer actually. So if you wanted to like throw a trailer in this anywhere, I could provide that to you guys and a bunch of photos and stuff. Like we have kind of a press kit that's coming together. But as of yet, no title, but I'm speaking from the past when people see this.
We'll have all that worked out by, you know, producer Chase is a magical man. He will figure this all out. But with that being said, would you like to play an engine sound guessing game with Spenser and I before you leave?
Yes, the only reason I'm here, as always.
All right, so we are going to play the engine sound guessing game. Spenser, I'm excited to see how you fare at this without Zack here to kind of like steal the show. We got Ryan. The engine sound guessing game is brought to you by our friends at Akrapovich. It is everyone's favorite engine sound guessing game, and if you'd like a little bit of extra sound from your motorcycle, you can check out a premium Akrapovich exhaust to get the most bang for your buck. As always, if you want to play along, crank up your stereo speakers at home. And here is the first audio clip of the engine sound. All right. Well, guest honor. First of all, everybody finished listening to the clip?
I did.
Okay. We'll do guest honors. And since you're both guests, we'll start with Ryan and then we'll go to Spenser. So Ryan, any off the cuff guests there?
You know what this feels like is when you like run into somebody in public that you know, but you can't place it. You can't place their face or their name. It feels like that. Where I hear it and I'm like, oh yeah, I've heard this bike before, but
how many cylinders?
Hell if I know what that is. I thought maybe 2, but I feel like I'm pretty bad at this. Well, I thought maybe V-twin or 270, but I don't know.
For those of you only listening, Spenser just gave a very agreeing look.
It has between 1 and 6 cylinders. I'm certain of it.
I'm positive of that. Yeah, I thought. I don't know. I'm shit at music, but I thought I could hear a bit of a syncopation that you might get from like a V-twin or 270, but maybe I'm way off. What do you think, Spurgeon?
No, I'm going Spenser.
No,
Spenser next. Absolutely not. Spenser. What do you, I am not a guest. I am stuck here in perpetuity with Chase.
I'm so much better at guessing what it is not than what it is. I know it's not a Harley Livewire. I'm pretty sure it's not a Ural.
It's not a Ural. It's not a CBX 1000. We're really narrowing it down here.
Yeah, can we maybe if we name every single bike it isn't, we'll eventually arrive.
I'm going to play it again.
All right, we'll play it one more time and then we'll get a hint. All right. So like it sounds relatively basic, right? Like we're not hearing liquid cooling. We're not hearing high performance, kind of like a lawnmower meets, something slightly bigger than a lawnmower, right? Like
is that
KLR 650?
That's not the clue. That's just me pontificating.
It doesn't, I didn't hear any like fuel injection whine. It starts up really quick. It's like boom, and it's like going already. When it's idling, I thought I heard V twin, but then when it revs up, I thought I heard big single. So I don't know what the hell that means.
Single is my guess, but that's not based on, that was just my first instinct was it sounds relatively low rev ceiling, and smaller displacement possibly. But
again, good point.
If you told me it was a 1290 Super Duke, I'd be like, yeah, that's how good I am at this game.
All right. Well,
it doesn't rev very high.
We have two hints. I'm going to pull open the first hint. And hint number one from producer Chase. It is a single cylinder motorcycle.
Oh, great.
So so we've narrowed it down from Super Hawk, or what'd you say? Would you say a Super Duke? 1290 Super Duke. So yeah,
we're Super Duke.
Yeah, we're a single cylinder at this point.
Is it like a CRF, like CRF 300 or something?
I mean,
that's a guess.
I'm also wondering, like, I'm trying to go down the road of like producer Chase's mentality of like maybe something from Ryan's trip around the world. Like, is it not a Ural, a Royal Enfield, like a bike that he might have seen a lot of while in India? Like,
that's interesting.
Is it the V4 running on one cylinder?
Yeah, that's right. Super economy mode. Yeah, I mean, gosh, we saw a lot of single cylinders. We didn't ride any.
I feel like it doesn't sound quite as agricultural as a Royal Enfield. That could be.
Really?
I could be way off there, but
no, maybe you're right. Yeah. All right, we'll do final hint, and then we'll see if anybody has any final guesses. So, Spenser says it does not sound as agricultural as a Royal Enfield. He might be onto something. So the final hint is first introduced in 1987. This model was the best-selling motorcycle in Japan in 2000. Introduced in 1987, this model was the best-selling motorcycle in Japan by the year 2000.
In 2000.
So like a
bikes from 1987. I think the T-Dub 200 came out in 1987, and I think the KLR. Did the KLR 650 start in 87?
It was 85. 85? I'm pretty sure it started. It was the KLR 600 first, and then it got bumped up in displacement. I believe 87 it got bumped in displacement to the 650.
Yeah, interesting. Best selling bike in Japan. I mean, it's got to be a Japanese one, right?
Well, you said you were pretty confident with TW 200 was 87.
But do you think that was the best selling bike in Japan?
I don't think so. I don't think they sell that many of those anywhere.
I mean, it's never been the best selling bike anywhere.
But we just had, so like Dustin Whelan, our main writer for Common Tread, just got back from Japan, and his big commentary was like he got to ride some like bigger horsepower sport bikes, and he's like, it was brutal. He's like, you just want to be on a small displacement little bike.
Yeah, what was the first year of a small displacement Ninja? Like whatever, Ninja 250 or something. It doesn't seem like it would have been the 80s.
I think it was 90s. I want to say like mid 90s maybe.
It sounds
because it was a Ninja 5, and then that's a parallel twin anyway. So the Ninja was a parallel twin. That wouldn't have been a single.
I guess we'll never know. What
was the Suzuki? What was the TU 250? TU
250X.
X, yeah.
Yeah, that's a cool bike. Kind of a Triumph looking thing.
Yeah.
Have you done a video on that recently?
Not recently. A while back, though, it was in a video. If Chase is trying to like feed me bikes that I've ridden before,
he's sneaky that way.
That could be. Yeah.
He really likes making you look stupid. When he did this to me with a GS one time, and I owned one. Terrible.
I think the last time I played this game, I was like, "Oh, it's a single," and then it was a twin, and this one, like, "Oh, it's a twin," and then it was a single. So yeah, I mean, shows how much I know. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like it's got a bigger thump. I feel like maybe it's on the bigger end, but
the KLR is I know the years don't exactly align unless it's specifically the 650.
I can't imagine a KLR being the best-selling bike in Japan in 2000.
I can't imagine it either. What would have sold well in Japan in 2000?
Isn't that kind of a sport bike era? I feel like sport bike
2000. Yeah, it's true. Yeah, sport bikes were good in 2000, but also like choppers of that era too. It could be some weird.
Yeah, but I think we're thinking about this from like a North American angle,
SR 400 kind of thing. Yeah.
Right.
All right. Any final guesses? Producer Chase is blowing us up. You say we're rambling too hard here. We need to make a guess.
This is supposed to be a fun little game.
Yeah. What do we? Any final guesses?
I'll go KLR 650. Maybe the Japanese will love them, and I never knew it.
Spencer?
It's not a good guess, but it is a guess. I don't want to say KLR because he just said it. I'm going to say it's a small CBR of some kind, and I don't know why that would be, but I'm just trying to provide options here. We're trying to diversify our portfolio.
The answer,
little single sport bike.
This goes back to test taking skills. When I was a teacher, we used to tell people it's like the first thing you think of. Don't doubt yourself. 2021. The engine sound is from a 2021 Yamaha TW200. Ryan had it. He was like 1987, first year of the model. Todd sent in a engine clip of his bike. Thank you, Todd. Around 1996, 9 years after its release, the popularity amongst riders in their teens and 20s capitulated the TW to the bestseller status in Japan.
Right on for the TW200 in Japan.
Right. We got to dig more into that story. What was happening in Japan in 2000 where everyone was like, I need a TW?
In 2000, the model sold 15,000 units, the highest ever. Cow. And it made it Japan's best-selling motorcycle for the third consecutive year.
Holy cow.
Wow.
There's a whole TW scene that we didn't know existed.
And some fun facts. Producer Chase said that FortNine did crossing Canada's only desert on a Yamaha TW200 in 2018. And for true. Spencer, throttle out conquering winter with a KLR 650 and a TW200. So producer Chase threw a bike that both of you are familiar with back at you.
Just twisting that knife, man.
Yeah. Right. No excuse.
Yeah. So there you have it. The engine sound guessing game. Todd, please do send us an email with your preferred t-shirt size and t-shirt design, and we will get you a t-shirt. For anybody else that wants to play the engine sound guessing game, you can shoot an email to highside, lowside at RevZilla.com with your year, make, model, any mods that you've made to it. Get us the bike firing up, let it idle, a couple good cranks, and we might pick your bike for the next engine sound guessing game. There we have it. You guys were both stumped by producer Chase throwing bikes at you. And Ryan, you had it, man. You're like 1987 TW200. Like you.
I know.
Right there.
I should have trusted my first guess there.
Well, I appreciate you taking almost 2 hours out of your day to chat with us about the film. Super exciting to see, the direction that you've taken with this. And I'm really excited for you and for Connor and for Edwin, to get this out in the wild. And I know that you're probably still, a month and a half, 2 months away at this point, but it's gotta be really exciting for you guys, on the precipice of releasing this thing.
Yeah. It's nice to be close. It's lighting a fire under us for sure. The work we're doing now is like, okay, we got to get this done.
Yeah, let Edwin know that we're thinking of him and his editing dungeon, that we send positivity and easy editing solutions his way. And we hope he has a nice vacation planned for the holidays when he's done.
Yes, that's right. May Premiere never crash and DaVinci resolve itself flawlessly.
Yeah.
Thank you for your time today, Ryan.
Nice chat with you guys.
Well, that was an amazing conversation. And I would just want to go on the record saying, don't get any crazy ideas that you're going to get to go back out and refilm CTXP episodes 2 or 3 times.
It's not that, Spurgeon. It just sounds like now we have to go around the world in 16 days and 22 hours.
You might as well just do it in 15 days, 15 days.
That's
even.
The spirit. Yeah, that's the winning spirit we need. It seemed like a lot of fun. And now we have the perfect blueprint that they did all the hard work.
Would you want to do it like the way that Edward did it? Would you want to be sitting on the back of a motorcycle the whole, does that, knowing that you've produced CTXP episodes, would you ever want to just be on the back of a motorcycle for 16 days straight trying to film and produce at the same time?
The reality is, and this is why they did it in testament to them committing to that, I don't think it's a matter of want. I think if you are going to film it and do it in the amount of time that would sustain a record, then that's either the people riding need to film themselves entirely, which is a whole other can of worms, and whether or not you have the brain power to do that while covering that many miles. Either you do that or you have a cameraman sitting on the back of a bike. So I'm
asking if you want to be the cameraman sitting on the back of a bike. That's
Yeah. Okay. Spurgeon, as soon as you're ready to do the round the world trip, you sign me up.
I just have such an appreciation for Edwin and all this, right? Like, I think, the idea that knowing now that he had never ridden a bike before, and, that he was trying to operate a camera off the back of a motorcycle, that he was sleeping probably less than, maybe Connor had a few nights where he wasn't sleeping as much, but it's just a lot. It's just crazy.
Yeah, I mean, I said as much to Ryan as we were saying goodbye to him, but really hats off to all 3 of them, because there are so many things in a video like this that the audience will never appreciate. And there's no fault of the audience, but there are so many little logistical nightmares that you have to deal with on a daily, if not hourly basis. And whether that's futzing with microphones or cameras or permits or carnets, you can get equipment in and out of different countries. I mean, the list would go on and on and on. And the fact that they actually did it is hugely impressive. And maybe the record will fall one day, as many records do. But I would be very impressed if someone was able to break the record and make a documentary about it in the way that they did. Doing both of those at the same time is its own category of record breaking in my mind.
Yeah, 100%. So if you haven't seen it yet, the documentary is live over on FortNine's YouTube channel. Make sure to check it out and drop a comment below, letting us know what you thought of it and whether or not you would want to be in which seat in the documentary would you want? Would you want to be the Ryan seat where you got a pillion on the back? Do you want to be Edwin's seat just along for the ride? Or do you want to be Connor, riding solo? So,
but if you choose Connor, it comes with the foot fungus. So you don't have a passenger, but you do have to ride with a foot fungus through all sorts of miserable conditions.
Did he keep the boots afterwards? That's what we should have asked Ryan. What happened? Did he throw them away? Set them on fire? I assume they
burned everything. You got it for hazmat reasons.
Whew. Well, let's move along to the Highside, Lowside comment review section. So, for those of you listening for the first time, you get a chance to win a t-shirt, much like with the Engine Sound guessing game. We look at Apple podcast reviews. We look at Spotify comments. We look at emails sent in to highsidelowside@RevZilla.com. And the email today comes from Matthew. Spenser, do you want to do us the honors of reading Matthew's email?
I would love to. Matthew says, I'm a 48-year-old rider who got his motorcycle license 2 years ago. My 2019 Honda Africa Twin DCT has exceeded all my expectations, but my challenge with the Africa Twin is that it's so comfortable, it makes it too easy to go fast. I often find myself cruising at redacted, there's his own writing, redacted miles per hour, and accelerating past redacted miles per hour when entering the highway. As a reasonable, mature adult and responsible father and husband, parentheses, all up for debate, I struggle to maintain the speed limit on this motorcycle, primarily because I don't feel the desired rush at lower speeds. When I discussed this with a friend who has over 30 years of riding experience, he suggested I get a legitimate sport bike to help reduce my speeding. Do you agree that a less comfortable, more challenging motorcycle would lead to a more engaging experience at lower speeds and help me avoid speeding?
Well, that's a question for the ages. What do you, off the cuff, Spenser? Should Matthew be buying a sport bike so that he speeds less?
Yeah, that is sort of like someone saying, I feel like I'm smoking too much weed. And then a friend says, well, have you tried crystal meth? Because if you do meth, you won't like the weed as much. I guess I sort of get what he's saying, right? He's suggesting that the reason he's going so fast is because of the comfort of an Africa Twin. Like, it's a big, smooth motorcycle. It's a DCT. So you can kind of turn your brain off and all of a sudden you're going redacted miles per hour. But on a sport bike, it forces you to be a little bit more conscious of what you're doing, at least theoretically. Like you're hunched over, you feel the weight on your wrists, you've got your knees up into your armpits. And so perhaps you're just a little bit more focused on the fact that you're going, 100 miles an hour or something. But no, I wouldn't. I feel like what I would say is, hey, if you're getting such a kick out of going those speeds and you find going slow is just sort of not doing it for you anymore, perhaps try, if you like the ADV stuff, try some more challenging trails. Maybe instead of saying, I'm looking for my kicks on the freeway on-ramp, be open to the idea of doing some dual sport trails, because all of a sudden you will find that 15 miles an hour can be plenty thrilling and terrifying if it's, a steep downhill or an uphill rock garden or whatever it might be. That would be my take. But, Spurgeon, let's hear your pass on that.
I mean, I have not smoked as much crystal meth as you have apparently, but I would agree with you. I think, honestly, Matthew, taking your Africa Twin off-road is a recommendation that I would pull right out of my playbook, or taking it to a track day. You can get a set of street oriented tires and take your Africa Twin to a track day and kind of see how you're enjoying it there and being in a situation where you can push the envelope of the motorcycle you have and not feel weird about it. A lot of these large adventure bikes are very much like big sporty motorcycles, right? I wouldn't dare call them a sport bike because there'd be a litany of comments saying adventure bikes aren't sport bikes. But the idea of going to, something like a pure sport bike, I think you're just going to be uncomfortable on a motorcycle that has an even, a more heightened sense of urgency. Like I've never been on a sport bike and been like, you know what? I just want to kind of cruise along at 30 miles an hour. When you're on a sport bike, it's like it only wants to go fast.
Right. If I'm this uncomfortable, it might as well be for a reason. And then you're like, and then you have more problems. However, I do think an exception, one other idea would be a small displacement sport bike could maybe scratch that itch. Like a Ninja 400, it goes back to the very often referred mantra of it's more fun to ride a slow bike fast than a fast bike slow. The nice thing about something like a Ninja 400 is it has a little bit of that whiff of sport bike. But if you wring its neck, you're probably not actually going that fast. You can go up a freeway on-ramp in second or third gear, just bouncing off the rev limiter, and you're probably still doing like 40 or 50 miles an hour. So you get a little bit of, you can scratch that itch a bit without actually endangering yourself or others.
I am genuinely surprised that you did not say a Versys 650.
You think he can handle a Versys 650?
I'm just saying, maybe a nice parallel twin with some good mid-range torque, but still like the seating position of an adventure bike. Like,
no, most people can't handle the raw performance potential of a Versys 650. I reserve that recommendation for only the most experienced of track and off-road riders.
Well, Matthew, you heard it. While you can't necessarily step into the power and performance of a Versys 650, maybe a Ninja 400 or Ninja 500 or something like that would help you get a little bit of that aggression out, but at lower speeds. So either way, Matthew, hopefully that helps you in some way or not at all. But yeah, I would probably not recommend following your buddy's advice and just going and buying a pure sport bike.
Right. Also, your friend is definitely a drug dealer. Probably a good guy, but definitely a drug dealer.
All right. Matthew, you do win a t-shirt out of all these shenanigans. And I'll tell you, we would even send your friend a t-shirt. So shoot us an email to Highside, Lowside at RevZilla.com. We need your address and your preferred shirt style and shirt size. We have a couple different Highside, Lowside shirts at this point in time, and let us know which one your friend would like, and we'll take care of both of you. So Whew, we have done it, Spenser. We've gotten to the end of the episode. I just want to thank you again for taking time out of your schedule to fill in for our colleague Zack with his injured wing. Any final thoughts? Your first time co-hosting an episode, not just being a guest.
Oh goodness! Well, I think it was great. You're a very generous co-host, and it was awesome talking to Ryan. And and the fact that Zack wasn't here, so often Zack gives me a hard times for the ideas that I suggest over on CTXP. They'll be like, "Oh, that's uncomfortable," or "Those bikes are too small." A lot of excuses. I'm excited to now forever have the benchmark set by the FortNine team that it could be so much worse. I can always say, well, I'm not making you ride around the world in 16 days. So stop complaining.
Yeah. My takeaway here was, the subtle little job opportunity that Ryan threw your way. And I'm just like, shut up, man. Like, don't you take Spenser away from us. Cause I mean, as we can see, like, not only can you produce the videos, but like when Zack's, hanging out at home, being lazy, drinking Mai Tais and, not working, you can fill in, you can do anything. You can be behind the camera, you can be in front of the camera. And it never ceases to amaze me, the breadth of talent that you bring to our team.
Oh, wow. That must have been a lot more serious of an offer from Ryan than I realized, because you're panicking over there.
I know I am. I'm sweating. Final question for you, Spenser. And I know that this is not a podcast about yourself, but I'm interested, from a facial hair standpoint for the wedding, 7 days away. Are you keeping the beard? You're trimming it down. What are your plans here?
Sure. For the listeners, I have what can only be described as an early stage neck beard. We're really filling out the full face and Adam's apple area. I think that might be a game day decision. We'll see if
that's a dangerous game, man. Like make it like trim, like grooming the facial hair.
Actually,
that is a dangerous game.
To bookend this whole thing, Spurgeon, it depends on which motorcycle I end up getting. I think if I end up with a Ural, that is perhaps a mutton chop situation. If I end up with a live wire, is that more of a handlebar mustache in honor of the Harley? I think you got to let the bike dictate what your facial hair looks like on your wedding day.
Well, for those of you listening, I am going to do my best to make sure by the time you are watching this podcast, there is a photo of Spenser and his future wife, Claire, on whatever motorcycle they choose with whatever facial hair they go with to put in right now. So we get to see that for the entire internet to behold. So Spenser, thank you. I know you got a lot on your plate right now. Thank you for taking the time to help fill in for Zack and to have this conversation with Ryan. It was a hoot.
Great as always. Thanks, Spurge.
See you all next time.